Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our How to Hack series with Smithth and
Yrja, Oftedahl.
Tonight's show, we have back some of our favorite guests. I can't keep saying that. I keep telling each guest.
Everyone is the favorite.
They're my favorite. The problem about this is I know they can watch all this back, so I should probably stop saying that.
Everyone's our favorite.
But we've had a lot of interaction with these people, haven't we?
Yes, we have, and it's been
Throughout
lovely.
the hackathon.
Great people. Everyone has been great, actually.
This is the follow-up to the hackathon, the EU versus virus hack, a hackathon to try and find our ways out of this corona crisis. We are now some weeks past that, and we still have some hurdles ahead of us. How many people have been part of this again, Yrja? I forget.
21,000 participants and 400 volunteers. Like 400 volunteers? It's crazy.
It's an army.
It's an army. And tonight we're going to talk about like how to organize and build an online community with all these people. How do you do that?
How do you do that?
Yes.
We're going to find out tonight. That's what the purpose is tonight. So if you are interested in finding out how to build a community, an internal community, an external community.
And if you should do so.
And if you should, yeah, that's a good question. Because it does take a lot of time, effort, and there's a lot of energy required, and even some finances. I know that it's easy to build a community if you have money, right? Put some marketing out, push it down people's throats. But otherwise, if you don't, in this case, I believe this was built organically, completely.
Yeah, completely. And I have one question for you that are watching. If you ever have built an online community, would you please comment below what kind of software? Is it called software? No, online platform.
Is it called? What kind of software did you use?
What kind of software did you use?
Sorry, I have to do an accent.
No, it's okay. What kind of online platform did you use? Did you use Slack, or did you use, what else are there? Bevy? No, I'm not sure. Like, if you have used any online platform, we would like to know which one and how it went down.
And we have 4 guests tonight. We have Zivile, who has been part of the program since day one. We have Jorge, part of the commission, so he's coming from that angle. We have Barrett, who we're going to speak to first about the internal community, as well as Yrja, who you've seen on the show beforehand. So I'm going to pass the stage over to you, Yrja, to kick things off.
Barrett, welcome. First question, tell us your role, and next up, what is an online community?
Hello, everyone. My name is Barrett Camilli, and I was one of the project managers of the community group of the hackathon. So like having that role, working with those people was a great experience and one of the experiences of my life. But talking about the communities, I think communities are the reason we are alive today. When we look to the early humans, so if they didn't invent this communication and community, maybe we would not be here today talking to you. And talking about the community, so like wherever I go, as Barrett, I always have a community with me, and I'm a foreigner. So I was born in North Macedonia, but I was Albanian and Turkish, so I wasn't a Macedonian, so I was there a minority. So then I decided, let's go to Turkey this time. And here I realized I'm a foreigner, and that was another community that I become part of Turkey in the country that, like I'm part of the nation. But anyway, being a foreigner didn't kill me, make me stronger. And then there we formed in Turkey a group of internationals. And when I was 18 years old, so we started a website to bring all the migrants together to use online platforms. And that has over 20 million users today.
Wow.
Actually, that's how I started to believe the communities, and I started to become a proud migrant. But here today in EU versus virus, we again come together, but not only internationals from Turkey, but internationals from all around the world, all around the Europe. So we have people from Austria, we have people from Turkey, from Spain, from UK, from United States, even from China. And we are all working together, not to find a cure, but to find solutions of the problems of COVID-19. And then one of the most important things was to have a community which will help the community to find solutions. Like it's community, like inceptions, like dream after dream, like community after community. So we were a community of the, let's say the community management of 400 people. I was one of their leaders, and we had then domain leads, challenge leads, we had mentor coordinators, team coordinators, we had mentors, judges, then the participants, and and skill mentors. So many people at the same table, but it was really great, and it was really actually for me one of the life experiences that, this time we come together, we didn't take any money, and here we did everything to save the world, to save the people.
So you've been managing the internal community. Why don't you us a quick recap on the steps, that how it started and what the steps have been?
Actually, at first, the steps were, firstly, we had the domain leads. We had like 6 domains. And, when you consider in 6 domains, we had over 20,000 participants. To take care of the participants, we needed a community where, there are going to be one person in charge of each domain. And that person was in charge with additional 100 people. So I was actually working with the domain leads. At the first hand, I was helping the domain leads. And I think good leadership is when you listen and when you try to understand what they need to help them. And also, the Jack Ma say that, we are all smart people here. And Jack Ma says that, a leader should, be the person who makes the communication, not who tells the person what to do. I did the same here. I didn't tell anyone what to do, but I was listening to them and I was trying to understand what they need. And I was providing them the tools they needed to, actually lead their communities, which is like the domains. Then the challenge leads, then the mentor leads, mentors. The steps were domains, challenge, mentor coordinator. So
but have you been like the main leader, like the main touch point for all these 400 people? Have you been messaging all of these, answering all these questions? Like, how have you been managing, so that everyone has gotten the information they needed and everybody is happy and thriving? Has you been doing that 24/7 or?
Actually, it was 24/7. So I slept very, during the, hackathon, I didn't sleep so much. So I was actually we had I wasn't there alone. There was another person, the project manager with me. We had Josin, we had, Zivil, we had the other people who was helping us. And it was a great teamwork behind, I was answering the emails. And, when I hated, checking my emails because there were sometimes 200 emails coming, from the, by everyone. And then, I said, let's fix this. Let's have a to-do list and let's check everything on the to-do list. And then it started to help us. So we started to send less emails to us and focusing on the actions.
But yeah, I guess you use Slack also for the internal community, or was it just email?
Slack, emails, WhatsApp, whatever you can imagine. So Slack was, of course, the main tool, but the emails were very important, and WhatsApp. So also, all the internet, all the platforms that we were able to use, we used that.
But how do you if someone listening now who wants to start an online community are hearing I have to be messaging everyone on all different apps all the time, that's what I got to do every day, is there any way to structure it better, you think? What have you learned? How should you organize it better?
Have a to-do list, post everything on the to-do list, and make sure that everyone reads the to-do list. So then, I think that can save a lot. So that's
it's one common to-do list amongst all the 400. Sure.
What do you make that to-do list? Do you use it? I've heard there was a software you were using to do. It was a whiteboard software. Is that what you were using for a to-do list?
No, we didn't use the whiteboard. We used the Google Sheets, very traditional, but we put some colors there. We tried to make it a little bit colorful so that people will check it. Josin and Zivil helped us a lot, to write there the tasks. And I think that really helped us. And also one-to-one communication with the domain leads and domain leads communication with the challenge leads. So we didn't, I didn't write to everyone at the same time. I was writing to domain leads and they were writing to the others. And when it's fast, it's not that bad. But I think this community stuff, that's why it's exciting. It was less work. It wouldn't be exciting, I guess.
Yeah.
You mentioned Yrja there as well, who's been part of the participant thing. So Barrett, we're going to say thank you. And Barrett, we're asking everyone the same question. When we come back to you at the end of this, we want you to answer this question. So if you were to do all of this again, what is the big takeaway and lesson you've learned? And it can be personal or professional. We're going to come to you at the end for that answer. The big thing that's taken out of all of this and doing this. Yrja, hello.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
So Yrja, quickly, in as short as you can, what was your role, and then start to break down this participant community building for us. What does that mean?
So my role was basically the flying keep, I believe, but over the course of time, it has been really shaping itself because I was basically somehow coordinating the development of all the different participants in our hackathon. So it was not only the participants such as the teams or the participants, but also to understand how can we make sure that the domain leads, the challenge leads, the mentor and team coordinators. So each participant in our community had the feeling that they knew what to do, where to go, and where they could add value. So it was actually interesting how Barrett was somehow reflecting on this one huge Google document that we had in place. That was like our action plan, which was our dramatic last minute action plan that we created on Friday at 5 in the morning, I believe, as a view. But it's interesting, this document is somehow a showcase of how it is important to have somehow one source of truth in which you communicate everything that needs to be done, because people would then feel responsibility and they will pick it up and they will understand like, hey, this is where I can provide value. And yeah, I think this has been my role, identifying for people where they can provide value and how.
And the participants, right? So we've had, yeah, we've mentioned, 22,000 participants, all taking part in this. Now, these participants are multidisciplinary, multi-socioeconomic differencing backgrounds, different languages and things like that, right? So I can understand that there's an importance in creating a community. So outside of the obvious community, by just taking part, you become one of the alumni. What other tips and tricks have you used to basically collate this widespread audience? Have you had them all in one group, or have you just set up the same groups everywhere?
I believe that things have been growing pretty organically, because, but I think overall, when it comes to really mapping the development of a community and how people can partake, it's important to consider from the moment that you start with like setting up this initiative, how can people start adding value? How can they take, join, contribute from zero to the end of the event? And you need to map that for each participant. So it's for the participants from outside the teams, it's for the mentors, etc. And what we then afterwards did is evaluating like, okay, what are the tools that they need in order to do so? So what we decided upon is like, let's make the Slack channel available as soon as possible. Why? Because people then already have access to information, people can already start exchanging. And really from the first moment that people are able to share a message or consume some information, they have the feeling that they are growing together with the mission. And this has been very important, like listening to what they exactly needed and developing things accordingly what Barrett actually said. Yeah, how have they then been coordinated, like participants mostly through Slack. Social media has also been a very important tool, such as the website as well. You need to really make clear why people should participate, like why the app shall I contribute all my free time, although I have to work and etc. To participate.
How have you done that? Was there any sort of strategies that worked really well for you doing that? Because I mean, we're talking about participant community management you were talking about, but so there's one thing which is like when you've got all the 22,000 people signed up, right? Then that's what you touched on about Slack, about giving them their own category groups managed by a domain lead, by a central individual with this mother doc. But what about getting those people before they signed up? You just touched on something there about using social media. What worked for you? Was there sort of a blueprint we could follow?
I think what worked pretty well is that we didn't just start from scratch. So what the EU has been really trying to stimulate is to get all the different national creators on board and having them sharing the message within their community. In the end, it needs to all get together organically, and through referentials, you can get everyone closer, because people can identify themselves with the person that they spoke before with, or with the referential that they got, and that's how they eventually get on board. I think that's in the end how we got the 20,000 people or 21,000 people, through referentials, by just really first building a core network, which were our national curators, everyone who has organized a Hack the Crisis event before, and then spread it.
How do you moderate like all the like 21,000 participants? Like how, like as I asked Barrett, like how who has been how do you take responsibility and moderate and answer everyone? Like how do you make everyone? How do you make everyone happy and engaged?
Can you talk to everyone?
Can you talk to everyone?
Maybe you just talk to one person. Yeah, it's like Chinese whispers. It's like tell 5 people.
Yeah, exactly. So because there should be one leader, I think, for everybody, like at least like who is the voice? Like, do you need a moderator? Yeah, just
I don't think that there's one voice, to be honest. So when it comes to managing the community on Slack, it was super clear that, for instance, a person such as Kira, who has been sharing a lot of announcement messages, or Michi, that they were the voice. The participants knew, like, oh, I can get my information from here. I also think that you, Matt and Yrja, you have been a very valuable face to the community, because they always saw a recognizable face that they could check in with every day. So each person had a different face that they were checking in with. And I don't believe that there was one specific face or one different identity involved in managing this.
do you see, like, has the community been engaging themselves, or have you been starting any campaign or anything to make them engaged?
I think what is a very interesting case, what happened is, before, for instance, when it comes to our mentor coordinators, we had such a huge amount of like data and things that we had to manage, and the things that we had to get through. So we were lost at one point, you know, to be honest. At one point we were like, oh my God, we are about to fuck up. What are we going to do? And from the moment that we communicated this actually transparently, like, hey guys, we are going to be delayed. And this is what we are currently working on. People were contributing. So there were mentors, there were mentor coordinators, there were people from outside our networks who were like, hey, you need help? I'll jump on top of it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most important learnings has been for me, not to do already spoiler alert for the end, but parent leadership is really important when you manage such a huge community. Be transparent.
Parent leadership, was that?
No,
Sorry?
transparency.
Transparent. I
Yeah.
heard parent leadership.
Yeah.
Let's get everyone's parents in.
Yeah,
So
no.
transparent.
Yeah, transparent
Yeah.
to build trust, basically, right?
Yeah, transparency, like communicating when things are going wrong, because people will then jump on top of it, because they have the opportunity to grab something and help. And also share when something goes well, because people need to hear when things are going well. And I think just be the most authentic version of yourself, and then people will become the same. I think that's very important, transparent, and also engaging leadership.
Yeah, and I think that's an easier way also for people to feel more ownership of everything, because they're always involved and they see that you are asking for help in a way, and that they feel that they actually have something to say in this community. They mean anything to the EU Commission. So I think that's a really valuable takeaway, what you said there with transparency, Josine.
Let's head over to Zavila. Josina, now remember, we still want you to answer that question that we ask everyone, right? We want to ask the question at the end about what you've learned. So I hope you haven't given away, but you've given a pretty good one already. So if you don't have anything, we'll let you off this time. Thank you, Josina. We'll come back to you in a few minutes. Zavila, with the beautiful backdrop.
Hello everyone.
The best backdrop we've seen, I think. So
but you've had a couple of the best. You know what? We should create an award for the best backdrop. Best backdrop, because I mean, you know, we can do a lot with this, but you know, you have a beautiful painting behind you. Obviously, you did it yourself. Zavila is a part-time artist, so if you get in contact, DM her.
What? Did you make it yourself?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe yeah.
I want to hear all about that.
I want to paint that. But Zavila, your involvement. Let's give us a little quick rundown of what you did, and also you're going to talk to us about mentors and advisors and building the organizational community around that.
Absolutely. So it's a very funny story. I started as a part of marketing team actually, and as a national curator for Denmark. And then apparently Josine just dragged me in with Yrja and Barrett to the operations team and the whole organizational unit. So I ended up being a part of mentors and participants onboarding team, and that was a hell of a fun experience for sure. It's a lot of people to handle, to coordinate, and to guide. So that was my role in the EU versus Virus Hackathon.
Cool. So tell me, like, how has it been to work with all the mentors? How has it, like, because you have to build a community there as well. So how have you been focusing on building the community? And what's your lessons and teachings?
I think, first of all, what Josine already mentioned and touched base a bit before, that it's really important to include the different stakeholders and different national representatives and curators, right? And it was really great because we got not only, let's say, corporate CEOs, but we also had a lot of startup ecosystem founders, different civil society members, different educational representatives who joined as a mentors. And we have received 2,500 mentors who joined the EU versus virus hackathon. And so that was already a beautiful journey, receiving all the interest to be a part of it and to guide the teams. And I think the key learning for us was to divide those mentors into two types, that they were helping for teams as team mentors and guiding them through the whole hackathon experience, how to actually operate as a new team before established team during the process, and also as skilled mentors. So people who had specific expertise, they were helping for teams actually to build up a prototype, to build up their go-to-market strategy, marketing strategy, and stuff. So that was a really beautiful journey because they were exchanging their ideas in an online channel, Slack, and they were joining different projects. And yeah, and we had this huge challenge how to coordinate 2,500 mentors.
And that's the crazy thing when you get something of this size. You know, you talk about 22,000 participants, which is one thing, recruiting them and then managing them. What, you know, then there's the volunteers to organize, but then also there's the mentors, because there's so many different sides to running this hackathon. You need the people to help advise, mentor, train, and there's 2,500 of them. Insane. And you can't put them in the same group as everyone else because they require different information, right?
That's correct. So actually, I have some key learnings to share from what we did. One of the good things we received from the feedback was that we were super open and transparent with our communication, and we really personalized the communication with all the mentors. So what we did, we had a separate kind of individualized newsletter and marketing materials to share with them. We had some toolkits to guide them how can they actually work better. We had some exclusive webinars where we would have a one-on-one conversation. Of course, we wouldn't call it one-on-one with 2,000 people, but we tried to do it as personal as possible to really make them on the same page. What do we expect from them as a mentor? What do we expect from the whole community, and why we are all in this together? So that, I think that what made this community so strong, being open, transparent, and very personalized when it comes to communication.
Was it easy to bring the mentors from the EU hackathon to the matchathon now? To bring them on board
That's a really good question. We were really happy that, first of all the mentors who participated, a lot of them actually continued communication with the teams. And then also, besides that, they actually showed an interest to continue working with the teams during the matchathon. So we have quite a good consistency when it comes to the follow-up work. So I was really happy about that, and we, together with all the team that it followed up. So we didn't have really to go and look for someone else, but people wanted to continue growing the teams and the projects and making it scale.
Thank you so much, Sevilla. We're going to come back to you in just a few minutes. So remember that question I ask everyone, which is, if you were going to do this again, what you knew, how would you know, what is the big takeaway from this? So, but that's a perfect way to transition into Yrja, who is part of the EU Commission, which are one of the main supporters, organizers. They're the one with the big logo on the screen here. Yrja, how are you, my friend?
Hello, thank you very much. So here, thank you very much for being here with us. So, well, for the European Commission side, this has been, as you all know, it has been the first time we have done an exercise like this. So for us, building this kind of community, you know how the, let's say, institutions are. So being suddenly with all these people, those volunteers working, it has been an amazing exercise for all of us. And now it's something that also inside the Commission, all our colleagues, they are looking into to try to replicate it in the future, because it has been an amazing and rewarding exercise. So that's why the first thing, I want to thank all of you for being here and being part of this project, because without all of you, it would be completely impossible.
So okay, so thank you so much, by the way. So now we've been talking a little bit about how to maintain, like how to organize and manage the community and build it. But what about when the matchathon is over? Like, are you planning to keep the community alive, and how are you going to do that?
Yeah, actually, that was the idea when we planned this long project, we thought that we wanted to have these different three phases because we wanted to have something that could last for a long term. So we had the hackathon, we had now the matchathon this weekend, and then later also we want to have to give some visibility, some future for the different projects. So that's also why during this weekend we are trying to put all the different services in contact with also with the projects. We have also some different funds from the Commission side, and so we will have the COVID platform where all the different projects also will be able to continue this project.
How is that going to work? Is it going to be like a tool where you can actually like build a community, or are the community still going to thrive on Slack?
So then the idea will be that it's a community where they will be able to also to do this kind of matchmaking between what they need and what the different people can offer. So because now what we are focused from the Commission side is to give them the visibility to have the possibility to turn their ideas into real products. So like this is the only way that we can really tackle this crisis. So that was the aim from the beginning.
Jorge, and there's something that stands out to me, and coming back to sort of the premise to this chat is about how to hack a hack, all these kinds of themes and buzzwords we like to throw about. But there's one running red thread we've noticed, because obviously you need partners, and we're talking about the Ernst & Youngs, we're talking about the Microsofts, the Googles, the Facebooks, the big tech firms who are providing the software support. Slack, for example, providing that for free. Very difficult to go to these organizations just off the cuff and say, we're going to do something. One way that we've seen work very well for this organization, this setup, for Michael Iannato and his team as well, Zavile, Josina, is by having the European Commission, an NGO, a very respected, credible organization on board first, allows you to then go to the deep pocket partners, right? So we've seen that in building a community, which obviously contributes into your follow-up. Ernst & Young, for example, I know donated 300+ people to work with the teams through these processes in different areas. Just picking one example, that would not have been, that would not have been achievable if it weren't for, I think, having organizations, something credible, large things. So in the interest of our audience at home watching this, I think there's a takeaway from them to say that it doesn't have to be the EU Commission; it can be your local municipality to create that corporate community.
I think it's also, as you said, it's really important to have, let's say, somebody like that plays a central role that can say, okay, this is an initiative that is serious, and then like people can see that then they can be around that. So I think that the European Commission said, we want to build this project, and of course, we would like to have it to do it hand in hand with you. So that's the thing that between all of us, the Commission, the different national hackathons, the different public authorities in universities, all of us, we joined the efforts, and then we made this a reality. I think that without that, and to showing that we were all trying to do something that it was real and something for good, was completely impossible. So.
And we're talking about the follow-up because you mentioned your three-step plan, right? Which was organize a hackathon, organize a matchathon, and then add some support with the COVID platform. Really interesting way to think about it. You thought about, you thought 3 months or so ahead, and then actually did the first step, right? So through the first step, we're sort of 1.5 steps of the way there. Second step now, matchathon starts on Friday evening at 5 p.m. Yrja and I will be bringing you all the opening ceremony with Maria Gabriel and other sort of commissioners and partners involved. Tell me more about the match. What are you trying to achieve with the matchathon? How's it working, and why should anyone watch it?
So this is actually also, this is the first time that it's happening something like this, so big and also online. So then the idea will be that we will have on one side, we have the winning teams with their needs. And on the other hand, we have the partners, all these partners, public and private authorities that will say, okay, that's what we can offer. So during the weekend, we are going to try to put all these interests and the possibilities to match them all together. So that will be an amazing exercise, and the first time that will happen.
Georg, I was a bit
okay.
I know it's not easy.
Sorry, I was spot on.
In Norwegian, we have the same.
I know that.
Georg.
So.
Yeah.
It sounds good. It sounds good.
In Norwegian, it would be Yrja.
I've seen Yrja in Norwegian as well. Yeah.
That sounds quite good.
It's close.
It's close. Anyhow, thank you so much. And now we will move over to the final question and start with you again, Barrett. And what's been your biggest lesson during this hackathon and now matchathon?
Barrett? Hey, mate. You still there?
I was muted.
Hey,
Yeah,
we're muted.
go. You
Yeah,
didn't
no
leave the
worries.
call. Great.
He's
Okay,
falling asleep. It's late. We should get to bed.
Yeah, not really. So like I'm working as project manager in the Mechathon as well for public authorities, and the biggest lesson was, you know, to spend more time with the team. To, you know, like I think one of the biggest thing is, like, as community, I think the biggest learning is communication. So when you have very good communication, I think the community works really well. The biggest learning is communication, and we had really good parties with, you know, community. Like we had like the final one was a costume party even. So everyone would come in with the costume. Someone, you know, some people just made their home as discos. I think the communication is one of the biggest learnings.
Great. Over to you, Jusina.
So yeah, basically, I am not trained to be a data scientist or anything. So I did qualitative studies, cultural studies. The way that we set up community, the sign-up forms of the mentors, participants, volunteers, I'm not 100% sure if there was too much data engineering behind it. And what I would do differently is to take more data scientists on board and really make sure that all the sign-up forms are set up in such a way that, for instance, when we have a lonely soldier signing up or a team, we can match it. If we have a mentor signing up and we have a team, we can match it. Because yeah, our human resources are very important in order to do so, and it's really not possible without. But managing a community of 21,000 people with only human resources, it has been a pain. So I would invest in a couple of data scientists for the next hackathon.
Yeah, thank you, Jusina. Did you have a question?
No. Carry on. Let's go to Sevilla, I think. Sevilla, what is your answer?
Yes, so I couldn't agree more to Josine that data intelligence is the key. And we're talking not about a few hundred people, we're talking about thousands. Yeah. So I think it's one thing to learn and a huge learning point. But at the same time, I think that my learning point would be like that it's not only about the COVID, it's about like actually getting people back together into a humanity, being more human, more transparent, more compassionate towards each other. And just, I wish that this kind of crisis we're dealing with together can push us further to be just better human beings and collaborators among different areas. Because as we can see, it really connects different stakeholders. You would have never imagined that the Commission can make a decision in one day, you know? It's incredible, and I think it's a beautiful collaborative approach towards our future. So yeah, data and collaboration, my key learnings.
Agree. Thank you, Sevilla. Great last words. And then over to Yrja.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
The funny thing is, you haven't seen what I've done today. I was here all day doing a stream, and I didn't pronounce anyone's names right, and it was shocking. So trust me, you are doing nothing compared to what I did today.
That's right. So then I think that for me the most important thing is that you really need to listen all the people that you have around. When they contact you, is because they have something to say, something important, and they have something valuable to the project. And also the second thing, trust on them. Trust on what they can say, what they can do, because they are experts in the field. So you are, if they are there, it's because then you are in a really good hands. So I think that's the two things.
Trust. Thank you so much, Jorge, or Yrja, whichever you prefer. So that's it, everyone. Just before we go, I want to sum things up. Yrja, so some takeaways. I think I made some notes, and I tried to extract from my notes the key points for everyone watching at home that you can take away. So, just fast forward to the end and watch this bit. You don't need to watch the rest. No, I'm just kidding. Go back and watch the videos. So it seems like organizing this kind of thing, creating the community, I'm talking about the internal community right now. It's all about creating one source of truth. By that, we mean a master to-do doc, right? That all the leaders are part of, so that they know what areas need to be areas need to be taken care of. Next thing is to organize domain leads. These domain leads, so for example, in this hack, we had 6 categories, and there would be one key individual who'd be in charge of managing then the lower ranks of people, right? So domain leads then manage the people underneath them. That seemed to work exceptionally well, and being in charge of categories. transparent leadership is the only way to lead in this instance, because, and what I mean by that is also, it's okay to say when things are going well and what you need, but also it's more than okay and required to say when things aren't going well. Say when things are going wrong, because you are surrounded by experts donating their time. They very well might come and help and support you with a solution to a problem you have that they've already thought of.
And they want to.
Exactly. And be open and transparent with them about that. They've also used the power of network, the multiplier effect, setting up a national periphery. So for example, I think this hack benefited a lot because this hack wasn't the first, which meant that there'd been, 50 hacks in Europe and elsewhere that had run before. What that meant was there was already an existing infrastructure of organizing groups in micro cities and capitals around Europe. So this hack leveraged that. For example, Zavile mentioned she was part of the Copenhagen hack. Josina, part of the Dutch one. We were part of the Norway one first. Now this is our fourth, right? So using the existing infrastructure and asking for help and favors. That was a key one to getting these people organized all around. And then last but not least, think before, during, and after. Jorge made a very good point about how can you obviously create the hack, what are you going to do during it, and then what will you do after? Because hackathons traditionally are all about a 48-hour event and there's very little follow-up, right? Because it's organized by civilians. This is organized by civilians, but there's slightly more higher stakes here because we're talking about Corona crisis, saving lives and saving businesses. So Yrja and I have hoped this has been valuable for all of you at home.
It has.
When are we back?
We're back tomorrow morning at 10, actually, for the opening ceremony of the demo day. And then it's the opening ceremony for the matchathon on Friday at 5. And we have 6 CEOs with us at 7 also on Friday evening. Cest.
You love cest, don't
like
you?
Cest.
She loves saying cest.
Central European Summer Time.
So I'm going to play us off. Thank you so much for everyone watching. I hope you have had a nice week. We're only halfway through the week, and this week is going to be an exciting one because it is the follow-up to the EU versus virus hack. We have the demo day tomorrow and the matchathon this weekend. That's goodbye from Oslo, Norway. My name is Smithth, and this is
Yrja, Oftedahl.
Dance It Off with us.
Have a good one.
See you tomorrow. We are off.